Okay, today I want to talk about password protecting your website using the .htaccess file process on an Apache web server running in Linux. And I've got a Linux VM right here running, and also out on the network I have a Windows 7 Ultimate VM with a web browser up and running, so I can test what I'm doing here. So let me get back to the CentOS 6 Linux VM, and let me talk about what I want to do in this demonstration. I want to use the .htaccess process, which if you've got a website running in Apache Web Server, as most websites are these days, you can use the Apache's built-in file access commands to protect any directory in Apache. And the Apache configuration file that we're going to be working with is the httpd.conf file, and that's located in etc httpd conf folder, and there are instructions within that file that allow you to use a password protection scheme using the htaccess file and another file called .htpassword to protect that folder and any file within that folder. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and fire up the terminal and bring this up to full screen. And the default location where Apache keeps its websites is cd, it's var www.html. And right now, if we run a listing on that particular directory, we see we don't have anything in it at all. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to create an index.html file, and I want to create some HTML code here. And let's see, this is the default website in Apache, linking to Dan's secret file. Okay, then I want to come down and do an AH reference to Dan's secret file, and I'm going to point that to since we are in the HTML folder here, I'm going to point that to the protected folder I haven't created yet, but it's going to be within it's going to be one level below the HTML folder. So I'm going to call that protected Dan secret file or Dan secret.html rather, and I am going to close that tag, and this I'll call this Dan Dan secret file. Okay, and then I'm going to close the A tag and do a paragraph tag here, and then close the HTML code. Alright, so that will allow me to go to the protected file folder, to the Dan secret file HTML file, by clicking on that link in the website for the default website in Apache. And so now I'm going to go ahead and right quit the file. Let me do a more on that and just verify this is what I want to do. That sounds good. Now I'm going to be protecting that protected folder, password protecting it, so that only those people, those users who have username and password set up to access it can access it. Alright, so let's, at this point now we're ready to go out and look at that HTTPD configuration file to see where Apache controls the password protection and how that works. Alright, so let me go ahead first of all and let me create, so let me do a pwd to see where I'm at, and let me create that protected folder underneath the HTML folder that I just referenced. So let me do a make dir protected. Okay, and so let me change directory to the protected folder, and then inside that folder I want to create the Dan secret.html file. Alright, so now I need to create some more code. one. This is Dan's secret file. Okay, and now let me go out and right quit on this file. So we now have within the protected folder a dansecret.html, and if I go back out of that up one level and run an ls-al for listing here for this, you can see that we have an index.html file, and then we have the protected folder here as well. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to get into the configuration file for Apache and see where it controls the protection of folders or directories within Apache. Alright, so I want to go to, let me change directory to etc httpd conf, and let me run a listing there and see what we have. You can see that we have an httpd.conf and a backup. I've already created the backup of that file, so I don't need to do that. So now that's in case I mess up the first file. I can get back to it by pulling up the backup. So let me do a vim on httpd.conf, open that file, and where the Apache controls the actual directory protection is in an area underneath, let me come down here, where the default location is for Apache. Okay, and I've located that. It's about line 340 something here on this file, and this is the file that controls all of the configuration for the Apache Web Server. If you look at, let me do an insert and go up the directory here. Let me come out across and go up. Let's see if I can get over there and go up the file here. We're under the var www.html location here for directory, and right now the allow override is none, and I want to change that. Well, I don't want to change that, but what I want to do is rather add a more specific directory command for controlling the specific folder that I want to protect in Apache. The allow override none just basically tells us that the .htaccess file can be placed in no area here, and so what I want to do is come down and come down below this and add another directory statement, directory, and then I want to go and protect var www HTML protected. That's the folder. Okay, and close that, and then I want to come underneath that, and I want to put in here allow override authconfig auth config, and then come down under that and close the directory. Alright, so that we have that now set up so that it's going to require authorization in order to get into the protected folder here. So that's how that is performed in that .httpd.conf file. Alright, so at this point I'm going to go ahead and right quit the file, save it. Alright, and of course I just changed the configuration file for Apache, so I'll need to restart the server. So I'll do a service httpd restart. Alright, and that restarted the server. So the next thing I need to do now is I need to get out to the directory, the protected directory itself, and create that .htaccess file that we want to use in order to control the protection on that particular folder. So I want to change the directory to var www HTML protected. All right, and so now I want to vim and create the .ht access file. That is a hidden file. Okay, now this file has to have a specific format, and so let me do an insert here. And the lines that have to be included in this file are AUTH user file, so auth user file, a space, quote, and then the path to the HT password file that we want to create to control the password on the directory itself. This is going to contain the users and usernames and passwords of those people authorized to access that protected folder. We don't want to put that in the HTML location. We want to put that in www, because if you put it in HTML, then it'll be accessible by the public. So we're going to create that in var www, and then we're going to create that HT password file there. Okay. All right. Then in the next line, we need to put auth group file, dev null, and then auth name, and this can be anything you want. I'm going to call it a Dan's secret file, and auth type, and we want to use basic here, and then we want to require valid user. We could put in a specific user if we wanted to, and only that individual will be able to access it. But we want to be able to add more than one user here that has access to the protected folder. So we're going to say require any valid user. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and right quit that file. All right, so we've got the HT access file now. If I do a listing here, we'll see that the HT access file is in the same folder we want to protect. And so now what I want to do is get out of that folder, come up one level to the HTML, and I want to create the HT password file that controls the access to that folder itself. So that's what we referenced in the HT access file there. So to create the HT password file, you type in HT password and then -C to create it the first time, and then the file itself, which is the .ht password, and then the first user that you want to have access. So I'm going to call the first user Dan Callow, and then it's going to ask me for a password. I'm going to put in password and then retype it. All right, and then in addition to myself, I want to also add another user named Washington. So I'm going to type in HT password. Don't need to put the -C anymore because I've already created the file. I don't want to recreate a second one. And then I want to do a .ht password Washington. And then I want to give him the same password, and then password. All right. And so now that we've created those two users, let me do a directory listing here again. And you can see that we can have the .ht password file there. Now it's hidden. That's why I used the AL switch instead of the L, so we can see hidden files. Now let's do a more on the .ht password file, and you can see that what we have in that file are the usernames and then the password hash corresponding to the password that I gave each one, so that the system recognizes what the password is on that username. Okay, the other thing we need to check here is let's go back and change directory to var www.html, and let's go back and do a more on the .ht access file. Not a more, let's do actual listing. All right, and so let's look at that HT access file would be in, oh, it's actually in the protected folder, I'm sorry. So let's do a change directory, var www html protected. Okay, and now let's run a listing and look at the, what I'm interested in is looking over here at the permissions on this file. We want to make sure that it is readable by the group and other, and it is, and so we're okay there. Alright, so now at this point we should be able to go out to the website. Remember, the IP address of the web server was 192.168.142.176. So if I type in 192.168.142.176, that takes me to this file. It says that this is the default website in Apache linking to Dan's secret file. And then here's the link to Dan's secret file. If I click on it, it brings up a password screen, and it says a username and password are being requested by, the site says, Dan's secret file. So Dan Callow, if you recall, was one of those people that could access it. And so let me put that in. And the password was password. If I click OK, it should let me into Dan's secret file. I may have mistyped it. Let me try it again. Okay, I've run into an issue. Not sure what the problem is, but let me investigate it and find out why it's not letting me in. Alright, what I discovered is in the protected folder is the htaccess file. And so if I do a more on the .htaccess file, you can see that it says that the .htpassword file that has the username and password controlling the access to that protected folder should be located in var www. What I did was I accidentally put it in var www.html, which is where I didn't want to put it. And so I have now corrected that by moving that .htpassword file into var www. So let me change the directory to var www to show you that. If I do an ls-al, you can see now that the .htpassword file is in the correct location. So when Apache read this particular configuration file, it was looking for the htaccess file, and when it found it, it was then reading that file and then going out to the wrong location. So now it's in the right location. And so let's go ahead, and I'm just going to do a service HTTPD restart just to make sure that the Apache Web Server has been restarted since I last configured the configuration file. Alright, so it's restarted now. And so now let's go back out to the Windows machine, and let's go ahead and open up the browser. We should be okay. We should be good to go. So let me go ahead and type in that IP address of 192.168.142.176, and so it pulls up this page again. And if I click on Dan's secret file, it brings up the login screen. So let me type in Dan Callow and put in password, and that lets me into the Dan's secret file. So that verifies that I'm able to get in using that username and password. So let me close the browser. Let me reopen the browser. And when it comes back up again, I want to see if Washington can get into that particular file as well. So 192.168.142.176, and click on the Dan's secret file. Brings up the username and password screen again. So let's type in Washington and password. And sure enough, Washington can access the file as well. Now, if I come back out and do a 192.168.142.176 and put in something here that doesn't have a password associated with it, well, I've got to close the browser and bring it back up again to clear the cache. And it's because that was cached information. So let me now do it again. 192.168.142.176, and then click on Dan's secret file. And let me just put in Wilbur, somebody that doesn't exist, in that .ht password file, and I'll put in password, and let's see what happens. So now it's not letting Wilbur in because Wilbur's not on that list. So this has been a video demonstrating how to password protect a folder in Apache Web Server using a .htaccess process
using a .ht password file that controls the username and password access to the folder, thus protecting that folder from anyone who is not authorized to view it. And so that's password protecting files or folders in Apache.